School and a current board member of March for Our Lives.
Hello everybody, I'm Ariel Hobbs, Ariel Hobbs from Houston, Texas, and I'm a current senior at the University of Houston. And a student board and a board member of March for Our Lives Action Fund Board.
Yeah. And what I want to begin with is for anybody that has watched the forum today or is worried about their child's safety, either on the way to school or in their schools, any parent or grandparent that is worried about that, to ask themselves, what are they doing to try to prevent this from happening at their school? And what I would urge them to do, and what we know one of the best things to do to prevent these things from happening in the first place, is by changing our laws. We need we need moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, every single person that loves their fellow Americans to go out and work on presidential campaigns, especially in the suburbs, where oftentimes these school shootings are the most common and happening. Because if we can make this an issue and enough people go out and work on presidential campaigns in the suburbs, we can actually get people and elect politicians that protect our children, not guns. And on top of that, we can create a significant impact with March for Our Lives Peace Plan. For any young person that is out there, that is worried, that is in their school, that is worried on their way to school, or is worried about their friends or any of their loved ones dying from gun violence, I would encourage you to look at March for Our Lives' Peace Plan for a Safer America. This plan has proposals in it that we know can reduce gun violence by 50% in the next decade if it was implemented today. However, currently we have politicians that lack the courage to protect our children and the future of the United States of America. And we need people to be going out and voting on this issue, not for Democrats and not for Republicans, but for morally just leaders that protect our children and the future of the United States of America. Not the future of the Democratic Party, not the future of the Republican Party, but the future of the United States and our children.
Yeah, echoing the same sentiments as David, specifically about our peace plan for a safer America and getting people out to vote. It is important not only to work on political campaigns in the suburbs and to make sure that the messaging and the education of the issue of gun violence is correct and just and doesn't have the stigma that a lot of people like to paint over it. And people are really well versed on the issue, but you need to make sure young people get out and vote because this issue needs to live on. It cannot stop once we go to school or once we graduate college and go on with our lives. This has to continue on, and by doing that, you need to make sure that young people vote. There's a concerted effort in certain parts of this country to prevent people from registering to vote or even voting during general elections and primaries. It is important that we educate people on their rights to vote. It is big. It's one thing to say it is your civic duty to go vote. But when you have certain people to where they have to jump through loops and hoops and go around all these tricks to go vote, it creates apathy. It creates a lot of voter apathy. And so we need, as a country, to put the effort into educating people on what your voting rights are in your state, your city, and your county. How you go vote. How you can fill out things like provisional ballots if you don't live in if you are living in the city that your permanent address is not in. So that is an integral part to our peace plan and to helping curb gun violence in this country. Because we have to put elected officials in office that we know want a safer America. It's one thing to say that, oh yes, we have this plan, thoughts and prayers and all these other things, but we need people with a comprehensive plan like our peace plan for a safer America that are going to be in office and actually enact these laws.
We have, right now, we have the power. If we go out and win in this presidential election for gun violence prevention and peace wins this presidential election, we can reduce gun violence in the United States by 50% over the next 10 years. But what we need people to do is join March for Our Lives chapters by going to marchforourlives.com, and we need people to be donating to us as well because we're mainly run by small dollar contributions, and we need people to be supporting us in that way. So if you're a young person that wants to be involved in protecting your community and country, go and join or create a March for Our Lives chapter or donate at marchforourlives.com.
Any questions?
Yeah, just
question
here.
Yeah.
The March for Our Lives Peace Plan, only one presidential candidate has endorsed it so far, Beto O'Rourke.
what have your conversations been like with the other candidates' campaigns? What reasons are they giving you guys for not supporting it? Are they in talks to do it? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so the main intention of the peace plan is to give us a scope of what we, basically a North Star of what we hope to do. And we celebrate candidate Beto O'Rourke supporting the peace plan and encourage other candidates to adopt it as well. But I think more importantly, what we need to make sure every candidate has more than anything is a comprehensive plan that is focused on addressing all aspects of gun violence. Not just mass shootings and not just everyday shootings, but also the 2/3 of gun deaths that are suicides that happen disproportionately in rural and suburban America.
You're talking a lot about the importance of voting, people voting in the next election, getting new representatives in office. Senator Murphy has talked about how he still hopes to come to some resolution with the White House on background checks. Do you realistically feel like anything can happen on this before the next election, or is it really about getting new people in office?
Yeah, so realistically, I don't think anything is going to happen until a lot of senators especially start to feel the pressure coming on from people in the suburbs that they're going to be voted out of office, especially moms and dads will be voting them out of office unless they protect their children in their schools in the first place, especially in places like Virginia and Pennsylvania.
David, so in the aftermath actually of the Las Vegas shooting, you gave at a press conference, you were saying that March for Our Lives and that nobody was coming to take your guns. That's what you told gun owners. But now they see with Beto O'Rourke saying that, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s, and they see people affiliated with March for Our Lives praising that. How do you consolidate those two statements?
I actually have an answer to this. I know you directed it to David, but coming from the same state as former Congressman O'Rourke, living in Texas and hearing that argument a lot, when you talk to gun owners that use guns for sport, like hunting or different things, they understand that when we talk about removing AR-15s, that they don't need an AR-15 to hunt. You do not need an AR-15 to defend yourself from, it's a weapon of war. That's just what it is. And so there's no need to have weapons of war on our streets. There's no need to have weapons of war in our communities, because as long as they're out there, then there's a chance that weapon of war will be used on someone, like how we've seen in multiple mass shootings in this country, whether it be the Santa Fe shooting or the shooting right here in Las Vegas. When you have those high capacity magazines and high volume weapons that can shoot rounds in many rounds in a matter of minutes, that needs to be removed. And so you have people that are afraid that they're coming to take their guns, and I completely understand that, and we don't want to take your guns.
Just like AR-15s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just hours before this forum, former Vice President Joe Biden released his gun violence prevention plan. What do you make of the timing of that release?
I certainly wish that the plan was released earlier by the candidate, considering we hope that all candidates, regardless of whether or not they support the peace plan, we hope that all of them have a plan that's focused on addressing mass shootings, accidental shootings, daily gun violence and gun homicides and gun suicides as a whole. One thing that I am very inspired by, along with many of the other candidates, including that have created plans around gun violence prevention, including our plan, is the focus on community-based violence intervention programs that are focused not solely on just creating new gun laws, but are focused on addressing the historical injustices of gun violence that create communities that have create the communities that have the highest rates of gun homicide in the United States. Because we know, for example, that one of the top predictors of where gun violence occurs in the United States is where communities were redlined in the 1930s and 40s. And if we're not talking about the historical injustices, be it environmental, racial, or economic, that happen in rural America, suburban America, and urban America, we're not talking about gun violence until we actually focus on solving it.
Last question.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed from the different Democrats' gun plans is that it seems like the younger candidates like Beto O'Rourke, even Pete Buttigieg, seem to have a little bit more ambitious plans, whether it's a national licensing program or a mandatory buyback. A candidate like Joe Biden, obviously the oldest person in the race, one of the oldest people in the race, it doesn't seem to be going as far as some of the other candidates. I mean, do you think that reflects a generational divide in this primary? Is that something you're paying attention to?
I think there certainly is a generational divide, but what I think is important is that there is not a divide on whether or not this is an issue anymore. Candidates are no longer, when they're asked about gun violence, they aren't going out there anymore and talking only about the Second Amendment, because they realize this is not really an issue about the Second Amendment. This is an issue about our culture, and that we have a political system and a culture that currently values guns more than our children and the future of the United States. And I believe personally it is more patriotic to love our fellow Americans and protect our fellow Americans, not guns that kill our fellow Americans, nor enabled mass murderers, especially white nationalists, that go out and use assault weapons in these mass shootings, and then conveniently use mental health as a way of not talking about white nationalism in the first place. But do I think there's a generational divide? Certainly, but I think what that reflects more than anything is that we have this kind of spacing where there's a generation that used to have to go through air raid drills for a fear of a nuclear attack, right? And right now, we have kids that are going through active shooter drills in our schools, and there's a certain gap in that generation that don't realize the reality of what's going on. And what I think we need to do to solve this issue is bridge that gap and get this generation and the generation that went through those air raid drills working together, and get them focusing on how we create an America where all Americans love each other in the first place, and we value peace and love more than violence and hatred.
Are you guys gonna endorse?
Well, thank you. We gotta wrap.